And we are live. What's going on YouTube Live? It's your boy Billy Rowe. Today is Wednesday. If it's Wednesday and you see me on the first row, it is 9 times out of 20,000 million times out of one. One time it would be where it's not the Wednesday word. But today it's the Wednesday word. So I'd like to welcome you to the first row for the Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. I'd like to welcome you guys. I know I'm only here right now currently once a month, but I definitely enjoy the time that I get to spend doing a couple of other things, and then the time that I actually get to spend and really to kind of delving into the topics that I want to bring for the month. And I kind of get to pick and choose from a bunch of different topics that come up over the course of a month. So I'd like to welcome you to the first row again. Thank you guys for joining and tuning in for the live, if you're watching via live, or for those who may be watching the replay. Thank you guys for continuing to rock with me. I always enjoy the engagements and the additional conversation that comes from after these shows. So let's jump straight into it. Tonight's topic is stop giving dead seeds. What do I mean by that topic? As always, I like to explain that. When it comes to the topic of stop giving dead seeds, what I'm really referring to is what we may sometimes refer to as the backhanded compliment, or that's one segment of dead seeds. But really, what I'm referring to is having a seed that is capable of producing growth and producing evolution in another individual, but wrapping it in a capsule that makes that seed unpalatable for that person to truly receive it and implement it into their lives. So tonight I have 3 tools for you for the first row, tools for the first row as always, to help you, or that have helped me when it comes to handing out dead seeds and really trying to ream in that practice and making sure that the seeds that I'm giving are not only seeds that are going to promote growth, but also that they're seeds wrapped in the proper package, so that way that the intention of growth to promote in the other individual is received and has the opportunity. Now, I can't control what they do with the seed, but at least has the opportunity to take ground and flourish. So jumping straight into it, the very first tool that I have for you when it comes to stop giving dead seeds is evaluate the health of your seeds. Before you even give the seeds out, you may think you have a seed that is going to meet somebody's need or is going to help make somebody's life better. But evaluate your seed and make sure that it is a actually healthy seed. As if we're talking in seeds, I'm going to use a lot of farming terminology. But if you have this seed that you think is developed and it's not going to be a dead seed, make sure you got a couple of crops that have come in on your side, so you can actually see, oh yeah, when you use this tool, or when you use this growth, or when you use this characteristic, or whatever it may be, this is what the potential harvest is. And you know that because of the fact that you have experienced the harvest with it. It's a lot. I don't want to say a lot. There comes times in life where people may come to you for advice. Will have to say, for me, what I have found to be the most powerful thing, and people will respect you for it, is simply saying, if you don't know. Life is precious. The time that we have here is precious. So instead of experimenting with people and saying, okay, well, I got this seed and I don't know if it grows a beanstalk or if it grows a corn stalk, but I'm gonna give it to you and then you plant it and let's see what grows from it. It's okay to evaluate that seed and say, you know what, I don't really have this part of my life together yet to really try to give you some guidance or try to give you some encouragement in the right direction. But what I do have is a listening ear. So if there's something that you're thinking about doing or thinking about using from your own repertoire, then I can kind of give you my insights or thoughts about that. If I think it'll work, if I don't think it'll work, if I think it's a good response or a bad response. So that is the very first tool, is really looking at the health of your seed. And so before you even go to give out the seed, you're making sure that that seed is viable. And viability in a seed, whether that seed is financial acumen, emotional intelligence, even just professional promotion and journey, career path, regardless of what it is, the viability of that seed is measured in its usefulness. So for me, myself, one of the biggest things that I had to overcome internally, not really externally. I guess maybe somewhat externally, but more so internally, was my insecurity on the lack of formal education that I have, especially not in like everyday day-to-day life, but especially in the workplace where I'm amongst peers who are collegiately educated, where they are technologically educated. They may have some advantages above, over me in the sense of education, formal education. And so one of the things I really had to work on was my hustle, my drive, my ambition, my work ethic. And in the hustle and the work that I've done in that, I now have some tangible seeds that I can give to other people who are questioning their worth in the workplace, who are questioning or may have insecurities about their abilities in the workplace. So the first thing is when it comes to evaluating the health of your seed, is really measuring the viability of your seed, if it is something that is going to be useful, not just to yourself. It should have been useful to you, but it should be useful to other people. There's like, I don't want it to be uniquely useful to me and then be like, yeah, here's a seed. Here's what I did. I'm a self-made man. My parents gave me $50 billion. And now all you got to do is get your parents to give you $50 billion. That's not a viable seed if your parents don't have $50 billion. But what is a viable seed is, hey, I had some of the same struggles, some of the same challenges that you had. And so here's what I found useful in my experience. Now, it doesn't mean that your experience is perfect, that it's the model or role model for everybody to base their path off of. But what it does mean is that you have found something that works for you and potentially can work for somebody else. And the other aspect of this is where I've not, I don't feel like I've struggled with it, but where I've really had to challenge myself in this aspect of evaluating the seed is simple things like this, the Wednesday word, where I'll have a thought or something that is resonating within me, and I may not be 100% clear on my message, and I'll have conversations with people, and I'll write down notes, and I'll read the notes and be like, do I want to say that way, or do I want to say it this way? This is another way to evaluate the seed, because the Wednesday word, believe it or not, is a seed. If I'm coming and I'm saying I'm giving you tools for the first row, then there are some seeds that I am planting with you. Whether you use them or not, your prerogative, but I am planting those seeds with you, and I need to make sure that those seeds have at least in some capacity worked for me. So that's tool number one. Make sure that you're evaluating the health of your seeds. Tool number two is, I feel like this is a very universal tool. It's be honest about your intent. So part of the issue when we're giving out dead seeds can be either the container or the capsule that we have encapsulated the growth or inspiration in is not properly suited for the person we're trying to give it to. Even though the information inside that capsule is amazing, the capsule itself is not appropriate for them to get that information. Or you'll have where the information itself is just not useful. So that's where tool number one comes in, is evaluating the health of your seed, making sure that the information inside the capsule is actually useful. Tool number two is more about evaluating the capsule itself. What is your intent? Is your intent to help somebody grow, to help somebody evolve, to help somebody excel, to help somebody, to lift somebody up and help promote them towards success? Or is your intent to attack, to belittle, to make yourself, well, I don't even say yourself, make your ego feel better about who you are, or maybe about your shortcomings not being as bad as somebody else's shortcomings? What is your actual intent? You have to be honest about that. I really don't like to tell people what they have to do. I recommend that you're extremely honest with yourself about that. And the reason you're asking yourself these questions and is because of this. That capsule is carrying a package that, if you move past step one, or the first tool, that is valuable. Not only has it been valuable to you, but it is valuable to the individual. You don't want to undermine that value. And by being honest, if I want to attack somebody, then I realize in wanting to attack them, whether that's verbally, mentally, physically, or whatever it may be, in wanting to attack them, then I really don't have a seed that I'm trying to give them. There's more of a hostility to that. We hear the term very often called tough love. Oh, I got to give them tough love. I got to give them tough love. Trust me, I believe in tough love. Don't get me wrong. However, there is a difference between tough love and vicious love and abusive love. Those two are not love. The latter two are not love. Tough love doesn't need to be vicious. It can be challenging, it can be difficult, but it doesn't need to be vicious. And sometimes we start thinking, like, I remember when I used to go to church, they would say, "Oh, the word of God is a double-edged sword. It'll cut you on one side and heal you with the other side." Well, the the interactions that we have with each other on a human plane is not that of where I can simply offend you and say, okay, now that I got this wound open, I'm going to pour in all the good stuff and then I'll stitch the wound back up. No, when we're hurt, we are less receptive. When we're offended, we're less receptive. And not only are we less receptive, we can become defensive or we can become offensive to where now we're on the attack and can't receive things. So be very honest with yourself about what your intention is. If your intention is to attack, then don't try to come in under the Trojan horse of, oh, I just want you to be a better person and help you grow and make you be somebody amazing. But if your intention is to assist, there is a specific way to go about doing that. Your the words that you use, the tone that you use, the volume that you speak in. Those are things that can be used to assist to deliver that seed. So sometimes it's not a matter of, again, the seed being dead or you're giving somebody stuff that's not going to be useful to them, that's not viable. Sometimes it's just the capsule that you're placing that seed in is not a proper delivery system. If you know that somebody is not into numbers, then you don't come at them and say, hey, I got the solution for you and let me run all this math by you to make sure that you understand it. No, they're more visual. Maybe they're more artistic, or maybe they need specific vocabulary words in order for them to get the information. You want to provide something that is going to truly assist them in getting the seeds and not try to force feed them a seed that is not really designed adequately to be delivered to them. So that's the second tool in it. And it's really about being honest about what you want. So that way that your approach matches what you truly want to do. If your approach is, I want to attack this person, my recommendation is going to be just don't approach them at all. That's going to be my recommendation. But if your approach is genuinely that you want to assist them, you might run into some frustrations. You might run into some doubts about, am I really equipped to assist this person, because they're not getting it. But when you're coming from a position of assistance, what happens is you're willing to sometimes adjust your approach in ways that you wouldn't if you're coming from a position of criticism, judgment, or just malice, just flat out malice. So that's tool number two, just being honest about your intent and making sure that the actions you are taking to deliver your seed, now that you know that it's viable, are actions that are going to successfully get that seed to the person you're trying to get it to. And then the third and the final tool when it comes to stop giving people dead seeds is really about cultivation. And cultivation is twofold. Let's say you looked at your seed, you evaluate the health of it, and you're like, yeah, it worked a couple of times, but I'm not really sure if that was a fluke or not. Let's say, okay, well, it's worked a couple of times. I feel good about it, and I really want to come from a place of assistance. I'm honest about my intent, and now I'm ready to deliver that seed. Cultivation encompasses those two areas. The first area being the seed, cultivating the seed, making sure the seed is to a place to where it is going to be useful. That is one of the things that I have to do with first row content. There's first row content that I have from a year and a half ago that I haven't been able to cultivate because of either I don't have the amount of what I believe should be the amount of life experience. And I don't mean we're searching for perfection here, but just I feel like there are other experiences that I will have that will help cultivate that growth and help solidify the growth within myself. So that way I feel more comfortable speaking about that growth. So that's the first aspect of it, is cultivating the seed, making sure that you get the seed ready so that it can produce a healthy plant when it does get to a good fertile ground. You see this with avocado plants, as a matter of fact, where you can take the seed. This is not an avocado seed, but you can take the avocado seed and out of the avocado, peel it down. You'll see people pick sticks in it, and they set it above a cup of water. And what that does is it allows the seed the time it needs to grow and mature to get its root system ready in place prior to placing it in soil. When you put, I mean, you can put it specifically straight in the soil, but it's a more effective way when you're at home to grow an avocado is you're having that seed suspended over the water and it's cultivating that seed and processing that seed so that way it's ready to be placed in the ground and it has a better chance of survival and flourishing and producing fruit because avocados are delicious. The second aspect of cultivation, though, is about cultivating the ground. So let's go back to that avocado seed. I have an avocado seed, it's ready to go into the ground, and I put it in the beach, or I put it in the sand at the beach, or I put it in rocks and stone. Rocks and stone and sand are not known for their nutrients. They're not known to be, I mean, you can get a couple of vegetations from at the seed, but it's not like we're growing, there's no forests of avocado trees, we'll say, at the ocean side. So because of that, what that second layer of cultivation is about really processing the ground. In the ground in this position, or in this particular case, is the relationship that you actually have with the person. It is difficult to go and say to a person who you have no relationship with, or a person even worse that you don't have a good relationship with, and say, hey, look, I got this seed for you and it's going to make life better for you. Here you go. And expect them to be receptive to that. The nutrients aren't there in the relationship. The relationship has not been cultivated enough to be able to sustain that seed and say, you know what Billy says really means a whole lot to me, and I really need to apply that to my life. It happens with childhood friends where I was fortunate. I grew up in an elementary school. From elementary school all the way through high school, I went to school with pretty much the same crew. So I have a very long cultivation of relationships for 12 years. But some of those people, after 12 years, I stopped talking to them. And I haven't talked to them, and now I'm 39 years old, and I still haven't talked to them. So you look at what, 21 years later, we haven't had a conversation. I haven't cultivated the ground to be able to go to these people and speak in their lives and say, you know what, this is a tidbit I got that worked for me, and I see that it would work for you. I think it'll be useful. Here you go. They're probably going to look at the seed. If it's a sunflower seed, they're going to crack it, eat the seed, and spit the shell out. Or they might just throw it over their shoulder and maybe it grows a weed somewhere else, but not in their lives. It's really about cultivating that relationship, because even if the seed is viable, even if you've already looked and said it's a benefit, it's something that is a healthy seed, even if you encapsulate it in the right package and you're saying, my intent is to assist, my intent is to develop, my intent is to inspire and help grow. Even if you have all those things, if you don't have the relationship, that's like a farmer going out to ground to land he hasn't tilled in probably like 10, or not 10 decades, in about a decade. And he's like, oh, well, I'm just going to throw some seeds on the ground. Yeah, unfortunately, those seeds are probably not going to work their roots into that hard soil. The soil has to be worked, and it can't just be worked, oh, well, I'm going to work on it for one day. In relationships, you can't just work on the soil for a day. Whereas in farming, you can just till the land and get everything flipped and make sure the nutrients are in there and plant. With relationships, it doesn't work that way. With relationships, it's something where it's a period of time that you're investing. And it's not like, oh, well, one day he was my friend and he was there for me for that one day, but then I haven't seen him since. It's not how it works. You have to be willing to till that relationship regularly. Doesn't mean every day, but it does mean there needs to be some form of regularity and consistency in the tilling of that relationship. So that way, when times do come up that you see an opportunity to give a seed that is not a dead seed, to give that seed that's not a dead seed, that seed is not only received, but it's actually planted in fertile ground, which is that ground and that foundation of your relationship. So those are the three things that I got for you. Really quick to go back over the tools for the first row. Tool number one is evaluate the health of the seed. Make sure that your seed is viable, and remember, viability is defined or measured in this case by usefulness. Tool number two, be honest about your intent. Is your intent to attack and criticize, or is your intent to assist and inspire? Once you're solid on what that intent is, because it's an honest intent, then you can move forward. And if the intent is something from a place of negativity and not wanting the best for that person, my recommendation is to just step back altogether. And then number three is about cultivation. Cultivate the seed. Make sure the seed is mature enough to be able to produce a harvest, we'll say in this case, with the person's life. And two, cultivate the relationship. Make sure that you have a solid enough connection and relationship with the person that by you speaking into their lives, they can actually hear you and utilize the seed. Other than that, you're wasting your seeds that are good seeds, that are not dead seeds. That's not a dead seed issue. That's a infertile ground issue, and you're putting your good seeds on infertile ground. It's not a good combination. So those are the three tools that I have for you when it comes to stop giving dead seeds. As always with every Wednesday word, I like to end with a story, something that kind of got me thinking about this topic. And this is actually not from my own personal experience, but it definitely got me thinking about a lot of experiences that I've had where I've planted dead seeds, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, where I've planted dead seeds. And whether that was because of the ground or because I didn't have a true understanding of the growth, not a mastery of the growth, that's another level, but just an understanding of the growth. And so for me, this story comes from a conversation that I was having. And I was having a conversation with this person, and they were telling me about their household and the importance of keeping a peaceful household, which I 100% agree with, because I didn't grow up in the most peaceful household, and I have been the disruptor in my household in my adult life at points in time. So I'm all for let's keep peace in the household. But they were telling me about the importance of keeping peace in their household, and they have an estranged relationship with one of their family members. And the family member had came to their house for an event, something had taken place where all the family got together at this person's house. And when the person came, the person, again, keeping peace in the household, we're going to say that's the viable seed, or the healthy seed. It's absolutely useful. But when the person was met with this person who they felt was a disruptor to the peacefulness of their household, rather than saying, hey, look, I got this healthy seed, and then saying, let me be honest about my intent and put this in a capsule that I can either deliver it or be able to take a step back, the person wrapped it in a seed of attack and criticism. So this person gets to the door and it's like, hey, this is a place of peace, and if you move past this threshold, you're not going to be allowed to disrupt the peace. And it was said in like I want to say condescending, but it was an aggressive manner in which it was said. And I'm only saying that I wasn't there, but I'm only saying that because of how the story was told to me by the person who said these things. So because of the fact of the tone and the delivery of it, it came off more as an attack and a criticism, almost rather to say, I have this seed of peace that I really want you to grab a hold of and learn how to implement in your life. It was like, I have this fortress that's peaceful on the inside, and we don't want your kind coming in here messing up the peace vibe. That's how it was said, and that's how it was received. And the person immediately gathered their stuff and left. Why? A couple of reasons. Number one, the cultivation of the seed, maybe the understanding of the seed of, man, here's why it's so beneficial to have peace in your household. And here's why it's important for people to know that when they're coming into your household, that they are not going to be judged because of their lack of ability to maintain the peace. They are going to experience and benefit from the peaceful environment that the seed hadn't been cultivated that way. Even though a peaceful household is useful, it's healthy, that delivery system hadn't been cultivated, and that understanding of that seed hadn't been cultivated to be able to say, I want this to be a welcoming house, and I want any and everybody who feels the need to be a visitor for whatever the reason may be, I want them to experience that peace when they pass the threshold of my door. It came off as a criticism. Like, you don't know how to be peaceful once you get past the door. If you don't know how to be peaceful, you get back on the other side of the door. And though I understand that and I totally respect that, at the same time, I understand that cultivation, this is why I said the cultivation of the ground, when your relationship is either non-existent and or estranged in this situation, which is, in this case, it's estranged from a negative reason, that cultivation of that relationship is not there. So it's really hard to deliver a seed of growth because it's more often than not going to be met with some type of feeling of defense, like, oh, so you're saying I'm not good enough, or oh, so you're saying that I'm the disruptor. You're saying that all this issue between the two of us is because of me and my lack of ability to accept and embrace peace. That's what you're saying, and that's how it was received. And the relationship, boop, person went back in the other direction, and the relationship continues to be strained. So this is, again, not one of my stories. It's not an example of necessarily how to get it right. And I would never say anything on First Row. As you can see, I'm not sharing names or details like that. But I would never say anything on First Row that I wouldn't say to this person's face. Because as a matter of fact, when they told me that, I said, hey, look, I understand the importance of keeping and maintaining peace in the household. And that is your responsibility if that is your household. However, the way you approach them, I would have probably reacted the same way if my relationship was the same with you. As like matter of fact, we have a good relationship. And if you kind of came at me like that, I might look at you a little sideways and say, where's that coming from? When have I ever disrupted the peace in your house? When have I ever brought chaos? When have I ever brought drama? I might have taken offense to it as well. Now, fortunately, because we're not on a strained ground, there's a little cultivation in our relationship. I would at least have the ability to have that conversation. But when you have that person who's strained, they're like, I don't even want to talk to you about it. I'm out. And this is that example to where we are all moving through this growth cycle. We're all moving through life trying to be, hopefully, the best version of us we can possibly be. And it doesn't mean that we always get it right. And it doesn't mean that we always get it wrong either. But what it does mean is that if we truly love the people around us, if we truly care about them, if we truly want to start giving seeds of encouragement, inspiration, motivation, and development, if we truly want to start giving those things, we have to be willing to look at each other and say, hey, look, I don't think you got that right. And be able to hold each other accountable. I have a ton of friends, a vast circle of people that influence my life and I influence theirs. And that is one of the things that we will always have, is the ability to look at each other and say, I don't agree. So that's what I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have enjoyed the Wednesday word. I always enjoy the Wednesday word. I have a kind of a laid back vibe right now, but I still enjoy the Wednesday word every time I get to do it. The next time you will see me will be the third Wednesday in November. If I remember correctly, I think that's the 18th. Yep, the 18th of November. That is 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But that's all I got for you guys today. I always enjoy you guys rocking with me on the First Row. If you have anything that you want to put, whether it's in the live chat or if you want to put it on the comments, you're welcome to engage with me in the comments. I will respond to you within the first week of the content being up. After that, I move on to either other content development or other things that I'm working on. So other than that, I thank you guys for tuning in, watching live if you're watching live, or watching via the replay. Until the next time I catch you, one love, peace, and God bless. Thanks for sitting on the First Row.